Okay, the next big story that we are tracking is the latest understanding on the Supreme Court's order in the Vodafone Idea adjusted gross revenue case. Now, the actual court order has triggered a fresh debate over the extent of relief that the government can consider for the telecom operators, because the court order seems to be indicating that the scope of relief will be limited to the additional AGR demand, which was less than 10,000 crores, whereas the overall dues, go up to 80,000 crores plus. We have with us Balaji Subramanian, Vice President at IIFL Capital Services, and Sanjay Ashar, Senior Partner at Crawford, Bayley and Company. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. Mr. Ashar, if I could come to you first, I don't know if you had if you had the chance to glance through what the actual judgment is saying. But if the court's argument is that the original prayer was only about the additional AGR demand, which was around 9,800 odd crores. So then, now that the government has allowed, the court has allowed the government to have a relook at the matter, is it going to be limited to just that, the additional AGR demand?
Yes, it's just the additional AGR demand up to 2016-17. Whatever that year is there mentioned in the agreement, because in the order, and the order says that that is what has been prayed by Vodafone.
So that means that the government, if you read through and interpret the judgment as it stands right now, it means that the earlier assumption that the government has a full free hand to now, look at the case, with a fresh pair of eyes. The argument was that the government itself has become, a very significant shareholder. That doesn't hold then it doesn't seem to be that big a relief.
Absolutely, it doesn't hold that.
So Balaji, comment on this. If that's the interpretation, then what? And it's playing out, right? We're seeing the Vodafone stock today. In fact, there was some argument whether Bharti can also seek some relief, arguing that AGR affects Bharti as well. So don't limit it to one telecom company. So now what? We're back to square one?
Good morning. Thanks for having me on the show. If you look at the order that the Supreme Court uploaded last evening, I think it's a little ambiguous, to be honest, as in neither does it clearly say that the government has a free hand as far as the larger AGR case of 80,000 crore dues is concerned, nor does it kind of explicitly dismiss that point number 6, which says that this will be limited to the additional AGR demand, whether, that is the statement of fact merely, or does that mean that the earlier clauses which mentioned about giving flexibility to the government, whether the point number 6 qualifies the earlier set of points, that is not very clear. But my reading of the situation is that since the order itself leaves a lot of room for interpretation, I would expect the government to probably seek additional clarification from the Supreme Court before they take any concrete action. So I think based on what transpired a couple of days back, the expectation was that the government would have had a free hand, and there could be relief to Vodafone Idea either in the terms of either in NPV terms or in terms of the payment timeline. Now I think all that probably needs more clarity to come. So to that extent, I think any release rally or any expectation of a clarity emerging would probably now take a back seat, and we have to see how the government proceeds going ahead.
Such a crazy story, right? I mean, first that big order. I mean, what an idea. Even if anything, if this were to go completely their way, I mean, this is in any case there was supposed to be a survivor. I mean, share price separately. Others have moved way past, right?
Yeah.
So they were the third player, but not a strong player. Now even that is in question in terms of how this will go. If you were a betting man, Balaji, an unfair question, but what would you say? Is there room here or no?
I think it's a very tricky question, and if I would see, the way I look at it is that the stock meaningfully moved up. It almost moved up by 50% from where it was in maybe late August, early September, in anticipation of some relief coming through. So now we are seeing some of that rally getting unwound in the last 2-3 days. So I think fundamentally there are still challenges for the company, even if we assume that there is a meaningful relief on the AGR front, because let us not forget that Vodafone Idea also has a 1.2 lakh crores of spectrum dues, and which is basically almost 60% of the overall debt on books. So even if the AGR relief comes into play, you have the spectrum debt, on which there is again a bit of limited flexibility for the government, because let us not forget that a lot of this debt pertains to spectrum that will expire in 2034, 2035. So even if you give a moratorium, at some point in time, the company will have to pay this up. And it also assumes that at some point, Vodafone Idea arrests its subscriber losses and it sees a massive ARPU increase. So I think, there are too many hurdles that the company has got to clear before it becomes a competitive, strong third player.
Do you see it able to raise debt? Because that debt raising was seen as the most critical requirement for its survival as a going concern. Will they be able to raise the money, Balaji?
Now with this, uncertainty, the fresh round of uncertainty after last evening's order that got uploaded, I think the lenders would seek clarity, before they cut the check.
Okay. So very quickly, Mr. Asher, just to comment on this. Now, the consistent argument that Vodafone has been making is that there are errors in computation of this whole AGR liability. Now, I don't know if they can use that to try and seek relief beyond just the scope of this additional AGR, because they're saying there's error in computing, in the additional AGR, in the AGR, in the penalty, all of that. Could that be some argument of some sort that holds?
Very much. Of course, that will hold, that argument will certainly hold water, and surely they can agitate on it, and they can request the government to relook at the calculation. And in case that calculation is still, in view of Vodafone, not the correct calculation, they can again start a new legal battle in order to seek clarification or seek relief on the calculation of the AGR computation as well.
Wow. How many cases can you file on arguing that the calculation is not right? That 2 plus 2 is becoming 5, or maybe 5.5, or maybe 7.
No, but
so
the point,
all different cases.
No, it was highly unusual in the first place for the Supreme Court to circumvent its own order of 2020. That it happened, and we all kind of believed it and it was going to happen. Now there's this googly. So there's no way to tell, right? And if you're, just look at Vodafone Idea today. You thought, well, slowly the government is going to come in and, they have full flexibility, and today slam dunk, down 10%. So this is an absolutely crazy kind of story. But thanks very much, Balaji and Sanjay, for joining us as we continue to sort of track this as we go along. Appreciate it very much here.